What's your relationship to the Welcome Network?
I was invited to come and speak there. I think it was a Saturday morning, a brunch or something like that. And I spoke and did my book signing there. Yeah, so that's almost like maybe 2 years ago already. So that's my connection with the Welcome Network. Of course, the work that you guys do welcoming immigrants and refugees is dear to my heart, and as we all know, the history of the United States really, except for the Native American, is a land that is built on different immigrants coming on different ways. Some coming in the air, some coming in the ship, some coming in boats, and some coming at the border. So it touches my heart what you do, just welcoming other people, assimilating them, and making this their home.
For those who don't know anything about Sudan or South Sudan, what's been happening in recent years and why do Sudanese leave Sudan?
So South Sudan became independent in 2011. Sudan used to be Africa's largest country, and then it split in 2011, where South Sudan became an independent country and Sudan remained as Sudan. Why this war? I just feel that is related to bad leadership. When the uprising came, it was the local people that just went on the street because they see that government is not seeing their concern, and the resources that are in the country are being used by few people and not the population. So that's the sad history going on right now, and that's why there's a war. So different fraction of militias come up to people fighting, and then of course you have the Darfur issue, a peace like a kind of like a ceasefire that is being done in Geneva, that the Sudanese were invited. I think it's going on. Today is Friday. Yeah, I think it started yesterday. And then, but one of the delegation didn't come. One of those people that were invited to come did not come. And so right now, what is really facing the country right now is that the UN estimate that like 14,000 people have been killed, 33,000 have been injured, over 11 million people have left their homes. And the UN is warning that about 755,000 people will be facing famine in the next month. So I guess the prayer can be around making sure that the humanitarian have access to vulnerable people, so they can deliver food. The World Food Program is working hard to bring food to the displaced people, which is when I talk of displaced people, is those who left their home. And sometimes you have internally displaced, so they are displaced within their own country, actually, to South Sudan. So it is interesting, South Sudan break away from Sudan, and now you have refugees coming from Sudan to South Sudan. And South Sudan, seeing it got independency, have been struggling on her own with different issues. There's no infrastructure that are in place. And so having more refugees coming in now to South Sudan is going to be difficult on an already struggling economy. I stayed because I was displaced. We were just talking about displacement. I was displaced from Sudan to Kenya. So I was in a refugee camp in Kenya for 8 years. As a refugee. And so when the program, the Lost Boys and Lost Girls of Sudan came about, that's how I was selected by the US. So actually, my coming to United States was more organized because I was invited by the U.S. government, like we are a settlement. So that's how I ended up coming to United States. I landed somewhere in Europe, went to New York, connect to Chicago, and then Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is not far from you guys. And then actually the family, because I came as what they call an accompanied refugee child. So I have to have a foster family. So my foster family from Holland, Michigan. So that's how I came to the United States. I'm in DC area right now.
So what is your work now?
My work now, I'm working on my author stuff, still writing. I really want to work in industry that welcome new Americans, I really feel our hugest thing that we are known all over the world is the generosity of the American people. And sometimes people don't really pay attention to that, but it's what set us apart, we are a generous nation, and it's part of our calling. And as Christian too, we know in the Bible it talks about whom much is given, much is required.
What are the best sources of information to know what's happening back at home for you? you in Sudan?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
most of the time I just rely on U.S. reporting outlets, which is sometimes very limited, because maybe they might not have the whole content.
Since being in the United States, how have you felt like Americans may have understood or misunderstood Sudan or Sudanese people so that we might be a little bit more aware or a little bit more sensitive to understanding your story or your people's story?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the most important thing is like when Sudan and South Sudan were fighting, it was kind of divided between like, oh, it's a religious war, The northern part is Muslim and the southern part are Christian, which is partly true. But deep down, I really don't think it was like religious play a part in it, but I think it was economic. And we have seen it now. South Sudan break away. There were more South Sudanese are believers, like Christian or traditional believers, and now Sudan was left by themselves as Muslim, and there's a war now. So we clearly know that like religion can be used sometimes to divide people, but it's not really the core issue. Economics and injustice, mistreatment of other people is really the core, because I feel like if you study all the Abrahamic religion or you go to other war religion, you know that the very core message of any religion is peace to yourself and peace with your neighbor and peace with the nature. But we take that out of context. So that's what I will encourage people to know, that these people are image bearers of God. I wrote my book, What They Meant for Evil. So my displacement was caused by the Sudan government. But what is going on now in Sudan, I will not hold those people accountable, because like I said in the beginning, everything that is happening is related to bad leadership and corrupt leaders that are only just for themselves, and not for the well-being of humanity at large.
So you wrote the book, What They Meant for Evil. Where can we find it?
You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. You can really find it anywhere that the books are sold. And sometimes I do speaking engagement and book signing. So if somebody invite me, I can come and do book signing and speaking engagement.